Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dirty Money. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, living the good life.
Living the good life down there in Florida. I see.
I like
Right?
it here. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Except my
That's where you're.
AC went out, so I don't know if it's the good life now. Heat index like 110, no AC. It's great.
Well, we got a good show to sweat over today because we got some interesting stories. Anheuser-Busch selling 8 beer brands after they got hit with obviously stock declines and boycotts due to the whole what's that guy called? Dylan Mulvaney, the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing. Then we got Wework stock plunging and then slightly recovering again due to retail investors. We're going to tell you why that happened. It's also a pretty funny story. Kim Kardashian launching a private equity firm. Kellogg's splitting. We've got the CPI numbers, inflation numbers, and a couple of other stories as well. If you're listening or watching on any of the major podcast platforms, do give us a 5-star review. Share this with your friends, and you can also watch the show and our short clips on any of the micro content platforms as well, such as Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Our handle on all of those is Dirty Money Show. So, Mike, let's launch into the first story, which is Anheuser-Busch, and I believe this is one that you were taking a look at, isn't it?
Yeah, so Anheuser-Busch decides to sell 8 of their craft beer brands to a cannabis company, right?
Tilray,
So
right?
yeah, Tilray brand. So it looks a little bit stranger than what it really is, right? So people are thinking like, oh, Anheuser's trying to get some money after the decline with the issue with the Bud Light cans, and the truth is that Tilray has an ambition to be a alcohol beverage brand along with being a cannabis brand. So not only can you get stoned, you can get drunk too, all on their stuff. So
Maybe
it's
they
a
can
little
do like a pack, right? 2 in 1 pack.
spin, but don't puke.
You get a
No,
joint and a can of beer. It's like a can of beer with a joint taped to the side of it, right?
yeah, but interestingly enough, I don't know how that will work because federally in the United States, it's completely illegal. That might work in Canada where it's federally legal in other places. But Tilray in 2020 merged with a company called Euphoria, which was a medical cannabis company, but they also owned Sweetwater Brewing out of Atlanta. And so the new CEO of this company decided that he wanted to make a strategic move towards acquiring alcohol beverage companies along with being a cannabis player. And in the United States, it makes a lot of sense to me when I started to really break it down. I said, how do you get over the hump of being
A world of well-being. Look at that.
yeah, well, yeah, right. The world of well-being, exactly.
I mean, maybe for the medical marijuana, but getting stoned and getting
Yeah,
drunk.
yeah. I mean, it makes people feel better, whatever. Just like drinking alcohol, right? It's all the
For
same
your
realm.
well-being.
Yeah, it's all the same realm. But fundamentally, it's interesting because in the United States, you have all these restrictions against cannabis advertising becoming popular. Each state has its own laws and regulations, but you have Tilray, which alcohol is completely legalized across the board. So now they make these purchases to become an alcohol player, but everybody also knows they're a cannabis brand. So it's the ultimate way to market your cannabis company on a national scale. So as I looked at this a little bit more, I was like, this is pretty interesting. So with the companies that they're buying from Anheuser-Busch, they're buying like all their craft brands. So it's, Shock Top, Breckenridge Brewery, Blue Point Brewing, 10 Barrel Brewing, Red Hook Brewery, Wildmer Brothers Brewing, Square Mile Cider, and Highball Energy. None of those brands are really recognizable on a national level except maybe Shock Top. And Shock Top kind of lost its momentum here in the last 10 years. And so it's really interesting to think about, like, they've now positioned themselves to be the 5th largest brewing company in the United States when it comes to craft brew, this Tilray Cannabis Company. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's smart when I really look at it from a marketing advantage point for the cannabis world. It's really smart. Get into the alcohol business. The federal government in the United States will allow it to be profitable, allow it to be, monetized publicly across all platforms. You're able to leverage lending, which you can't do in the cannabis industry right now. There's
It also
just
might help help them attract investment, and it'll probably stabilize their stock as well. Because Tilray, I remember back in the day of like the whole meme stocks and stuff. When we got out of meme stocks, it went to pot stocks, right? And a lot of money flowed in there from retail investors. And Tilray's stock was just wild, right? It was like a roller coaster for a while, up and down and stuff. And you know,
yeah,
I think with alcohol as well, it's going to stabilize the company because you could get it's more mainstream. It's not something that could get banned all of a sudden, or new regulations coming in and stuff. And so I think it's it's probably a good move.
yeah. So they're an international company. They have a lot of operations. They Tilray brought in 600 and something $1 million last year in 2022. So they're approaching that $1 billion mark. In Canada, they're the number one in flower, oils, and concentrates, number two in pre-rolls, number four in vapes. So they're top 10 in all the major cannabis consumer indexes in
Nice.
Canada, and they have a 13% of the entire market in Canada. So they're substantially large. But they also had one called the Green Flash and Alpine, which were brewing companies that they purchased in 2022 that are based out of San Diego for 5.1 million. So now it's expected that they're going to pay 85 million for these 8 micro brands from Budweiser. So really, Budweiser's not getting any more capital that they lost. I mean,
85 million isn't that much compared to the size of the company, is it? So maybe it's not really so much of a link to the Dylan Mulvaney stuff, although everyone thinks it is. But
that's what I mean. So it's not really linked to that. I think fundamentally it gave them a lot of publicity, especially Tilray doing this buy. Like, no one in there, we wouldn't be talking about this unless we had the previous conversations of them losing billions of dollars on their
that's
stock.
true, isn't it? Yeah, it's given Tilray a lot of good press.
Yeah, so they're taking advantage of it. Right time, right price, right place. So good for them, and it's good to see that they're going to move forward with that. But they also, $85 million for a company whose revenue is 600 million, a significant amount of money. So we'll see how the stock turns out. But I would say I would put this company at the cutting edge of all of the cannabis brands worldwide.
Would you buy? Would you say it's a buy? Not financial advice, but for you personally.
Yeah. For me, I was already contemplating whether or not I was going to buy it. It's at $2.63 a share right now. I think it's a long-term hold.
Yeah.
It's not a swing trade. It's not a day trade. It is a year-over-year hold.
I have swing traded it in the past, but yeah, I probably would be open to buying it as well.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even try to swing trade this. And who knows? This deal might fall through. They have an agreement. They're supposed to settle on it by the end of September. Let's see if they have the cash. Who knows what the real financials look like until they have to report them next year.
Well, so speaking of financials and companies losing lots of money, let's move on to our next story today, which is a funny one. It is Wework. Now, their stock plunged this week, although it did recover. We'll tell you why. But in a call to investors, I guess it was their earnings call, their management said that there is substantial doubt exists about the company's ability to continue going, to continue as a going concern. So basically, their management has come out and said there's substantial doubt over whether the company can keep functioning because they are just losing so much money. Their stock was down I think it was about 40% on August 9th. It was from around 22 cents down to around 13 or so cents that it just plummeted that day, okay, after this earnings call. And this was a $10 stock back in 2021. So it's lost 90% of its value since the beginning of this year. And, there's a bit of backstory with this as well that we can go into that's pretty amusing. So they had a sort of IPO. I mean, they kind of failed at first to do their IPO, and then they eventually succeeded. SoftBank stepped in and stuff. But their CEO, Adam Neumann, he's had all these crazy antics, which, the whole IPO, the scrutiny on their IPO a few years ago drew attention to. And so I don't know. There's some pretty amusing. I mean, he's an Israeli businessman. He took marijuana on a plane on a private jet from the U.S. to Israel. Plane had to turn around because it got discovered. Obviously, the private jet company didn't want to be like, illegal drug trafficking.
International drug trafficking.
Exactly, international illegal drug trafficking. And there's actually an Apple TV show made about him and the whole company because his antics were just so kind of bizarre and entertaining. And we can check out the trailer of that. It's Jared Leto playing Adam Newman. It's Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway, and basically the story of how they started up WeWork.
Come with me, and let's build the future together.
What do you care about? When were you happiest? Make a business out of that feeling.
What do you think when I say workspace?
Cubicles, ugly furniture, bad fluorescent lighting, death.
Exactly. The future of work looks different.
We're selling an experience.
We
We need a name.
We live.
We dream.
We work. Who wins in a fight? The smart guy or the crazy guy? Are you crazy enough? I may be.
Is Adam for real? I wouldn't be with him if he wasn't.
The wife, she works there.
She helps him manifest things.
We are on track to lose $400 million this year.
I think this. Enough, Adam! Or I feel trapped.
You have to make them see.
See what?
It gives you a little bit of a taste. The story of it is similar to the Uber CEO, actually, who, Travis Kalanick, who was forced out of the Uber board as well, because he created a sort of toxic environment with Newman. I mean, there was a book about him called $1 Billion Loser, which talks about all his antics and all a lot of the stuff that went on and stuff. I can read you some of the stuff that he does. There was an article in the New York Post about it, describing a sort of camping trip for, I think it was like 400 guests or something. According to $1 Billion Loser, every other attendee slept on air mattresses. Newman and his wife slept in a tent house suite that came with AC, heating, a king bed, 4 twin beds, several fridges, fireballs, 8 picnic tables. The list of requirements also included a shuttle bus, a Range Rover, a Mercedes, 2 dedicated bartenders, supplies ranging from 400 plastic shot glasses to 2 platters of fresh sliced fruit per day. This was on their company retreat, which was like, a week-long camping trip, basically. So he was just
Wall Street movie needs to be made out of this guy.
Well, you got a series with Jared Leto, so almost as good. But
Yeah.
He was just burning through cash, investors' cash, and they were losing billions per year. I actually had a friend who came from Japan. I can't say who this person is, but came from Japan to represent SoftBank for the IPO back in the like 2 years ago or 3 years. Must have been 3 years ago now. And he said he came to do the IPO, and then because of Adam Newman, the whole thing got postponed, and he basically came to New York and did nothing, and then just flew back. And they were talking all about his, they were sharing some inside stories of his crazy antics. And my friend said apparently he spent 100 days out of the year surfing or something. Like he wasn't even really running the company that well. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But the funny thing is, so SoftBank kind of stepped in more, and after that, they're really controlling it now. And the crazy thing is, though, after the stock dropped on August 9th, it's now kind of become like a meme stock. Like in my opinion, it's priced for bankruptcy, right? It's like a 10-cent stock, but retail investors have been flocking in to. Yeah, I see your face. I mean, they're up 100%. So. I mean, good for them, but I mean, if you put
that sounds really messy. I mean, it may be a day trade or something.
Yeah, like a swing trade, I guess.
Yeah, not even I wouldn't even hold it that long. I'd be real, given the market right now for commercial properties and considering WeWork, doesn't own any of their properties and they're leasing space from these large buildings, it's like, yeah, it's
Go to
up 10%.
5-day on that chart.
Yeah, it's up now, but yeah, see,
If you look at the 5-day on Google, you can see that it goes down and then it actually springs back up again to around 20 cents when all the retail investors piled in.
Yeah, they're gonna pull out. I mean, that 10% is probably the max. The 100%, the 10 cents you would have made if you would have, per share. That's it. That's about. I'm not financial advice, but this is Fire Festival in the form of WeWork.
Yeah. I mean, also, I guess the end of the pandemic probably affected them too, because a lot of people going back to their actual offices, maybe there's less demand for WeWorks, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're doing a startup company, why would you waste any money in paying $800 a month for a WeWork temporary office or a WeWork, a small solution? I looked into it, 3-4 years ago when they had the momentum. And I visited one of their offices in Michigan. I visited one of their offices in New York, another one in Florida. And the price was just too much for startup-based companies. A couple of guys working out of their house is a lot cheaper than trying to get them to all work together in one building for $1,000 a month. So it was cool. It was a nice work environment. They had all the amenities, the coffee, the stuff where you're like, oh, I'd go work corporate because, they never want you to leave. But
you can also use it for individuals as well, though. Like you can get an individual membership and then you can go to any. Yeah.
That's what I was looking at, but it was still high. It was still
high, isn't it? Yeah, it's still expensive. And if people are allowed to go back to their actual offices now, maybe they don't need this anymore. That's what I'm guessing. But
I never saw it as being a really profitable business. I always saw it as like a loss leader the whole time. But maybe they'll pull it out like Amazon, loss leader for 20 years and then boom, billions.
I hope they'll pull out of it because I think it's a cool idea, being able to just sign up for an office and go and work. I mean, if you're a freelancer, you might just not want to work at home. Maybe you want to be around other people. You want to have a coffee bar or whatever,
If they made it more reasonably priced, then I think it would be better. They had, when I went, it was $800 yeah, it was a lot. But, the idea will live on. If WeWork collapse, we're going to see somebody else come in and fill that gap. But it's going to be somebody like that is a large commercial holder of properties and they're sitting on it, like an investment firm bank that divulges into doing this because they want to try to recoup some of their losses that they're getting hammered on. That's the only thing I could see happening. But WeWork itself, I don't.
All right, let's move on then to our next story because we have Kim Kardashian setting up her investment firm, private equity firm. Maybe she could buy WeWork or start up her own WeWork. But anyway, K-Work, right? K-Work. So anyway, the 46-year-old and an ex-JPMorgan analyst have started up this Sky Investments private equity firm. For those of you who don't know, a private equity firm is basically a company that invests money from institutional investors and accredited investors who are, I guess, retail investors who have a certain amount of money. I think you have to earn over $200,000 a year in salary or have a net worth over $1 million, excluding your primary residence. And yeah, they invest typically. It's different to startups and invest in venture capital stuff because private equity generally are investing in more mature companies. So it's not like angel investing, startup investing, but it's just investing in private companies that are not private, or they buy public companies and take them private and invest for the long term. So this is what she's starting with this guy whose name is
Jay Sammons.
Sammons, not the fish. There's no L in it. Sammons. Jay Sammons. And they say, together we hope to leverage our complementary expertise to build the next generation consumer and media private equity firm. They always use buzzwords like this. It's kind of amusing. I'm sure they'll do all right, though.
Yeah, I mean, they've got enough funding. I mean, what really got me a little thrown off is Kanye West disappears for, I don't know, months, right? And then reappears with a new wife, and Kim's gonna launch an private investment firm. Like, what's going on here? What's really?
Have you noticed Kanye's new wife looks very similar to Kim Kardashian?
Well, naturally, like I definitely think that he wanted to stay with her and live their life with their children, but she was talking about investing into, I think, like cosmetics and consumer brands with a private equity firm. So it's interesting to me to see if she'll really have any say on it, or if the guy from JPMorgan is going to really dictate where the funds are allocated.
Well, I think probably the JPMorgan guy is going to be running it. I'm guessing it's for her network. She does the PR and sort of like finds the people, her rich celebrity friends who want to invest. Maybe that's the relationship, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm guessing between her and her sisters and her mom, they probably got a couple bill they're sitting on, so they could easily, you can get a good private equity firm that makes a lot of money with $100 million.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just their family alone, it would be pretty good, but they probably have a lot of friends who would be interested too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, I think it's a little odd. Kanye kind of disappears, reappears, doesn't look like Kanye, doesn't seem normal. He's not his same outspoken, crazy self. And then here his ex-wife's like, I'm going to create $1 billion private equity. Like, who's backing this? Where's this really coming from? Is it going to be publicly traded? Is she going to move from private to public? We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be publicly traded. I think it's going to be a private company, but
yeah, well, for now it will be, but it depends on what kind of movement they see.
Right.
If they can make themselves successful, then they'll want to make more money and have more leverage. So taking out shares of the public will allow for that to happen. So
that's true. And so talking about success and given the public shares, let's talk about Kellogg splitting, because this is kind of interesting.
They're based out of Battle Creek, Michigan. They have several different brands they own, from Frosted Flakes to Morningstar, vegetable burgers to Eggo waffles, Pop-Tarts, Cheez-Its. And, in 2022, they announced that they were going to separate into 3 companies. And the thing is that they backed out of that. And now they're doing the 2 companies that they're supposed to split in Q4. And the 2 companies that they're going to do are WK Kellogg and Kellanova. And really what they're trying to do is they're trying to separate the failing cereal business and propel their snack brand business that's accelerating globally. So snacking in the United States essentially is one of the largest food segments. I mean, Nestle alone made $99 billion on it. And
why is their cereal business failing?
Well, cereal in general is failing. People don't have time to sit down and eat cereal. Even though cereal sales are up.
Is it because the birth rate is fallen? I think that might be it. People are having less kids. Who eats cereal, honestly? It's only kids that eat cereal. I haven't had a bowl of cereal for like 15 years.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people eat cereal, but fundamentally, I'm eating Raisin Bran if I'm eating cereal. I'm surely not eating Frosted Flakes or Sugar Smacks or
Lucky
all these
Charms.
Other brands. Yeah,
it's for kids.
The number one cereal sale is Cheerios, which is owned by General Mills, and they did 435 million last year in Cheerios. But Cheerios isn't that extra sugary cereal. It's
Cheerios are good, to be honest. They're pretty good.
Exactly. So Kellogg's looking at this like, how do we continue to have revenue growth and exponential growth and really compete with the bigger players? Because you have things like the Kind brand that basically came in and stormed what I would call the snack industry in the last 10 years and really put a stronghold on it. And so these bigger guys like Kellogg and Nestle and General Mills are trying to figure out how do we keep ahead of the curve. So
Pine bars are pretty good. I often buy those.
yeah, they're good, but they're also expensive, right? The
They are
average,
expensive, but I don't. I think they're aimed at people that don't look at the price.
right?
You
And that's
know what I
the
mean?
reason-
I don't really look at the price of stuff. I'm just sort of like, it's a bar. How expensive can it be? Whatever.
right, and that's the reason why you're not going to
$6.
see. Yeah, $6 for two
No,
of them.
they're not that expensive, but yeah, maybe $6 for two. Yeah.
Right. So, but when it comes to like the global snacking, that's what I mean. I watched an interview with the CEO of Kellogg yesterday, and he was talking about the snacking being so powerful. He's like, we have Cheez-Its, we have Pringles, we have Austin, which are, you know, the little snack Cheez-Its, the snack crackers with cheese in the middle. You can eat packages. Kids love them. They own one of the major brands there. It's called Austin. And really what they're doing is they're trying to spin off that more successful brands to create more growth quickly. And really you're going to end up with unless they can reinvent the cereal, and I think it allows for the cereal people to be reinvented, but they're also going to be losing, like, what do you do with Eggo waffles? That's not really a snack or a cereal.
It's a breakfast.
It's a breakfast food, right?
Yeah.
What do you?
But
what
my
do you
kids love that Eggo waffles. They love it.
I don't even want to know what the ingredients are. But
Yeah, genetically modified,
Everything.
hydrogenated, whatever,
yeah, right.
high fructose, whatever. Yeah.
But it is delicious. So that's kind of what I was for the cereal, you know, world and where these guys are at. I mean, they got Pop-Tarts too. So where does Pop-Tarts fit into that? I guess you could call it a snack food.
Yeah, it's a snack, I think. So
Yeah,
they're going to
but
basically divide them up. And then what's going to happen to the cereal business, though? Because if you got stock in the cereal company, surely that's going to have less growth. So everyone's going to
Well,
invest in the other one.
you get both. So if you own stock before the split, you're going to get both. So
Sure, but then are they just going to let the other one die? I mean, what's going to happen?
well, I don't think they're going to let the other one die. They have 34 cereal brands, right? Among them are Frosted Flakes, which is the third most popular cereal brand in the country.
Yeah.
And then you have Fruit Loops, Raisin Bran, Rice Krispies. So it's not like they're going to die, but here's the real question is, where does the Rice Krispie snack that you can buy from the store, who's getting ownership of that? Is it the cereal company, or is it the Kellanova snack company? Are they going to fight for it?
I bet they're fighting over it as we speak.
Yeah, right. That's it. Or like, because I remember, I don't know if they still have these, but they came out with the cereal bars that had like the layer of frosting in between them that were pretty amazing. The most unhealthy things you could probably eat, but when it came to flavor, they were the best. But so that's what I'm curious to see what happens is all like these cross branding products that they have. Who do they go to? So, and if
Right.
I bought some of the stock on the news. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to buy some of this stock and see what happens. I didn't buy a bunch, but enough to make it seem like it might be worth it. But if it splits and they can both stay alive, you'll see some growth. Goldman Sachs had the split at, predicted it coming in at like almost $90 a share when they split. So $45 a piece. When this was announced, they were at like 62. So, there's a lot of speculation from the big firms saying we're going to be able to make money on this. So
Okay.
I took a dive. I don't recommend it. It's not advice, but it's something I did.
All right. Let's move on to the inflation figures. We have a little talk about the inflation, and then you're going to tell us about UPS because this is pretty interesting as well. But the inflation figures came out on Thursday, and inflation, although it's been trending down the past few months, it's actually up now. So we got this from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Inflation is now at 3.2% for the last 12 months, according to the figures from July. However, that's actually up from 3% the month before. So we've been trending down. We've been trending down for the last like 6, 7, 8 months or so, from a peak of 9% last summer. and we got down to 3%. We're now back up to 3.2. Now it could just be sort of an anomaly. We're basically level, but you know, we're definitely seeing a little bit of inflation picking back up this month. Well, in July, so we got food at home and in restaurants has accelerated. Prices going up slightly in July. New, you know, so we're not totally out of the woods yet, but inflation's still a lot lower than it was last year. There we go. You can see the chart there coming down from around 9% down to 3%, then back up to 3.2. I guess next month is going to be crucial for us to see whether this is actually a trend or is it just a little anomaly and we're basically flatlined, just sort of teetering around 3%. So I would say don't be too alarmed yet. Just wait till next month and have a look.
I mean, Powell wasn't wrong. The guy's going to keep raising rates, basis points. I mean, they think it's going to stop and it's going to go until October. He already said it. I'm raising it all the way until October. And so when you think about it from that perspective, he's going to make a good decision. I definitely see the basis. You know, we're going to hit 9% on mortgages, and then we're going to see kind of that struggle between killing
Demand
the economy.
destruction.
Yeah, demand destruction, right? Killing the economy or losing the value of the money. So once we hit the 9% mark, that's when we start to see a whole 10 double-digit interest on mortgages is where you're going to see.
I'll be interested to see the 6 or 7% on 6-month T-bills. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different story. So
yeah, I'm not borrowing any more money until this is over, you know?
Yeah, I don't blame you. Neither am I.
Yeah.
So right now, how I look
I'm
at
lending
it,
other people my money,
yeah, right.
i.e.
That's
the government.
Yeah, here you go. I'll take a treasury. Have a good day.
Right.
You know, so that's you know the inflation. Let's see what Jerome Powell does this month and next month to see if he's going to do 50 basis points, because I think then all the analysts are going to kind of be shook by it.
You think he'll do 50? I don't think he'll do 50. I think he'll do 25. 25's been, you know, the rate he's been going at.
Yeah, I think he did 50 once, didn't he?
Once. Yeah, but that was because of, I think that was because of certain, because he really needed to, you know what I mean? That was back when it was like 7 or 8 or 9%, but now we're down at 3%. I feel like 25 is going to be enough. Yeah.
Yeah, 25 twice over and he'll be done.
Yeah.
And then, but we're also going to see what are, you know, mortgage rates now are hovering at that 7%, right? So if he raises,
his job's pretty easy, isn't it? He just, you know, changes the interest rate by 25 basis points once a month, and that's all he does, right?
I don't know about that. He can't invest in anything. He can't make money anywhere else on the market. I know that.
That's right. Yeah, I bet he gets paid a lot. But
Yeah.
But that's all I observe him doing. I'm sure he's having meetings and talking with you know, doing stuff full time. But
macro economists, micro economists, bringing in what they view as, you know, their positions and their.
But really, his only action is altering the interest rate once a month.
And it really affects the whole world, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So there's.
Does he really need to be full time to do that?
That's the other question, right? But what's he do part time? Work at McDonald's or something? He can't do anything on investment cycles. He's got to like sit completely out of the world that he's born and raised in.
No, it's amusing. I mean, I'm sure he is doing stuff on a daily basis, more like research and commissioning reports and studies and all things like that and managing it. But the actual only observable thing from the outside is the change in the interest rates.
Let me bother a bunch of people when they try to buy a house. You know, that's basically what he does once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the two most powerful people in the world are the chairman of the Fed and the president of the United States. That's it. You know, You could say Canada this, or, you know, UK
Canada.
Prime Minister this, or whatever. It's those two guys.
I don't think Canada even comes in the top 10, but
yeah, that's true. I mean, who's the president there? Trudeau? Yeah. Bad decisions, Trudeau.
Who wears Star Wars socks. to meetings.
To me, him and Newman should get together. I guarantee it.
Oh, they should. I bet they get on. They'd love each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good party.
All right, let's move on to UPS because this is crazy. The amount of money that these drivers are supposedly going to earn after this this deal. Why don't you tell us about this, Mike?
So the UPS labor settlement is not as crazy as everybody touted, right? So it's like you saw these headlines, $170,000 a year for a UPS driver, and it's like, no. Those are long haul, over the road truckers that spend 3 weeks a month in the back of a cab truck driving coast to coast. So if you wanna sacrifice your nights, your families for 12 weeks of the year being home, and you can go to UPS, start out and make good salary at $170,000 a year. $3,500
starting salary.
No. That's their average over the long haul trucker. Starting is going to come in around 100, but still, you're there for 10 years, you're going to be at 170, but you're also losing nights, weekends, days. So the Teamsters are just emphatic about this win. And really, they got an agreed to where if you're a part-time worker, you're going to get $2.75 raise by the per hour by the end of the year. And if
MLK Day. They got MLK Day off as part of the agreement?
Yeah.
They didn't get MLK Day off before?
It's UPS. These people are
federal holiday.
They're delivering every day. Right? So Amazon doesn't give any holidays.
Right. Wow. Okay. So everyone at UPS gets MLK Day off now.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of different things there and I doubt everybody will get it off. Let's be clear on that. No. A portion of them will get it off. But UPS does pay significantly more than most companies. The average person at UPS makes $79,000 a year.
That's really good.
Money. Yeah. Right. So that's interesting to really think about. And that's according to pay scale. But according to UPS, their average long haul truckers make $172,000 a year for driving. And so that's really interesting. But more interesting is a $7.50 per hour raise on their full-time workers. That's what was agreed to in this union deal with the Teamsters. So really, it's
a big raise.
Deal.
$7 per hour raise. Wow.
Yeah, by the end of 23. I mean, we've only got 5 months left. So it's really interesting to see that they were able to pull that together. Obviously, UPS was confident enough in their revenues to say we'll be able to do this. So it's pretty interesting to know that it's still viable and that it can come through. But a lot of it has to do with benefits too. It's just not like all 172K in cash. It's benefits, 401ks. They might walk home with $100,000 at the end of the year, and then they have health benefits, all this other stuff that kind of accumulates into that total. So when you look at it, you go, wow, they're making $4,000 a year or $4,000 a week. Not really. They're probably pocketing $2,000 a week.
Okay. That's still $8,000 a month. I mean, it's pretty good.
I mean, it's good money, but it's not, it's good living wage. You can support a 4-person family on $8,000 a month. Whether or not you can buy a house with that and support a family and save money for the 20% down payment, that's another story.
I think you could buy a house, especially with an FHA loan or a VA loan or a USDA loan.
Now you're assuming the 3% of VA people all work at UPS. I mean, there's not really...
FHA, VA, or USDA. All those allow you to put either no down payment or a 3.5% down payment.
Yeah, the FHA is the most common.
Yeah,
but it's also for a seller, it's a nightmare because you're running into having to fix all these small things on your home to get the deal to go through. And
it's hard. I found out it's hard to buy a house with an FHA loan. I had one, and the seller refused to sell it to me and said, "You got to get a conventional loan within 24 hours, or I'm selling it to someone else."
And that's the market rate now. Is if you're coming with, people will literally say no FHA. No USDA, no VA, cash and conventional only. and it's their right to dictate how it's.
I think it depends on the market. I mean, if you live in an area like where I live, where we're in the countryside just outside New York City, where everyone wants to move to because they're sick of the city, the market's very competitive. So yeah, but if you live somewhere else where it's not so competitive, maybe you could get away with it.
Yeah, Mississippi or Alabama or Louisiana, maybe.
Right.
But where
Those worst states to look at that we to live in that we talked about last week.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. But if you're coming to Florida, you better be coming with cash. Otherwise,
Right.
you're good luck. Unless you're in the Panhandle, which I would call part of an extension of Mississippi and Alabama. Otherwise, you need cash to live in Florida to buy a place. You know, I want to say 30% of the homes purchased in Collier and Lee County, Florida, were cash buys last year. That's crazy. 1 out of 3 houses. So it's really, you know, $8,000 looks great, feels great. Truth is that the inflation numbers have killed a lot of things in our country.
Right, and I think this is why they're able to negotiate this as well, isn't it? It's because of inflation that the guys need this big raise.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they have to. Otherwise, how are they going to all afford to keep living and doing things? Especially, there's 34,000 employees. You know, that's a lot of people. So it's how do you keep all of that going?
Let's okay, so we talked about UPS, we segued into talking about housing. I got one last funny story that I wanted to tell you about. Okay, and this is kind of amusing. So Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, the current CEO of Apple, it came out last week that he was actually denied the Apple credit card, the Apple card, when he applied. This is the CEO of the company. And it's quite amusing, basically, because he is, how should we say, a high-profile figure, and he's often impersonated, I guess you could say, or people do fraud to do with his name because he's so high-profile. The credit bureaus have sort of a flag on the accounts of these individuals. I didn't know this, but this is what was said in the article, that basically it comes from an article in a publication called The Information, which got some insider info about the Apple card and everything, and Goldman Sachs deal, you know, to develop the Apple card and stuff. And basically the credit bureaus flag the accounts of these influential people just as a security precaution, because they're often impersonated or whatever. And the system that Goldman Sachs built of underwriting was so strict that it would not approve anyone who had something like that on your account, their account. So basically, if you're a billionaire or a celebrity, it's very hard to get the Apple card. And Tim Cook applied before the launch, and he was not approved. And they actually had to manually approve him. They had to do a manual workaround to actually get him a card.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I thought his credit score would have been bad or something. But
no, I mean, I guess his credit score would be probably pretty great. But yeah, it was because of him being a high-profile individual.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Why wouldn't it? You know, but he should have been issued one before anything ever went public. Like, here's all the executive. Here's your Apple card. You don't even have to pay the bill. Have a good day.
Well, actually, this was before the launch. This was when they were testing the system before the launch. He went and applied for it.
So
yeah,
at least
so they got it. They got it sorted.
Yeah. Let's see. I wonder how the NASDAQ and the Dow turn out for the end of the week here. NASDAQ, I think, second week in a row drop. All those tech stops where we
Apple has been down, hasn't it? Yeah.
I dropped out of Apple a week and a half ago. I dropped out of pretty much every tech thing I had.
Oh, wow.
And while the writing was on the wall, it's time to go. You know, take your 70%, your 50%, your 30%, you know, live for another day. So, you know, I think the tech bubble is getting poked right now, big time. The AI bubble, even NVIDIA.
This is the second tech bubble in the space of like a year. Don't you remember? About a year ago, we had a tech bubble burst. Meta was down like 80% or whatever.
Yeah, well, that was a complete burst. This is just a poke. They're just poking at it right now. But I didn't want to play the game and lose the margin that I earned in the last 5 months. Like, I'll just take it and run. if they made more, they made more. At least I'm happy with what I got.
Right. I'm starting to think about buying the dip, but anyway, do you think it's too
Wait,
soon?
wait.
Wait.
No, not financial advice, but wait. give it a minute. I mean, yesterday the Dow peaked out at 455 points above opening. Right. By the end of the day, it was like 13 above opening.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
So it's like now, the NASDAQ, I haven't looked at.
455 would be a pretty good day, but it's one of those
It'd be an
days where you have
excellent
no idea how it's going to end, right?
Right. But but that was at 11 o'clock in the morning. And by closing bell, it was, 13 to 50 points above opening. So it's really something to just pay attention to right now. And I'm still going with the astrology part of trading. And it's crazy because I bought at the time the astrology charts explained to buy, and I sold a week later. And because I didn't sell exactly when I thought I should sell in that time frame, a week later I lost 15%.
Oh wow!
But
so
if
the
I would have
astrology
sold,
stuff works.
though, I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying the first round worked.
It worked
So,
with a D.
We gotta
One
have
time.
3 consecutive wins, and then I can look at it and go, okay, this stuff works.
Yeah.
And I was doing it based on the moon.
I think we should probably come back to that in another video and do a whole segment on the whole astrology investing stuff because it's super interesting.
Let me do another cycle. Give it a few months and we'll see.
All right. Well, let's give it a few months. And I think that's about time for this episode. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks for joining us, Mike, as always.
Thank you.
And if you're listening on any of the major podcast platforms, do give us a 5-star review. Do share this show with your friends. If you're on any of the micro content platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, etc., our handle on all of those is Dirty Money Show. You can follow us there to see our short clips. But from us, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time on Dirty Money.